parents don't care what the school says on the front. They don't. And that's why I agree with that completely, and I agree with every parent who thinks that. But here, the issue is that right now at this point, we have all of this debate and discussion about this, and we're talking about a percentage of students that are less than 2% of the children in New York City. If Mike Bloomberg's proposal that he did during the campaign were to come true, and that would take 4 to 5 years to even get to that point, you're still talking about less than 10% of the children in New York City. So to me, the question becomes, all right, we can have that discussion over here and do all of that, but I want to make sure that all the children of New York City have access to smaller class sizes. I want to make sure that all of the children in New York City have access to after-school programs where there's tutoring and there's enrichment, or that they have access to social services that will identify their needs. And I want to make sure that all schools are treated fairly and evenly. So, about what Eva was saying about it, we need to treat everybody fairly and evenly. And we have to make sure that all schools choose to educate all of the students of this city. You have to match the demographics of every community of this city if you are going to choose to educate inside of them. So I think the debate really becomes, we can have this over here, but I think as a city, we need to make sure, and we need to be pushing towards, all students should have access to these conditions and services. And I think that's where our energy should be best spent.
I just want to go back, we'll open it up to questions in the audience in a second, but just to go back to sort of what does the ideal system look like? And I hear all of you speaking tonight, and I frankly, I write about this all the time, and I don't ever have a sense from people, how are we supposed to judge? The test scores have been, as somebody alluded to earlier, have been, even Merryl has talked about frequently that the test scores may not be the most reliable thing, but people have questioned the reliability of a whole variety of things. So what are we supposed to look at to judge whether the city is doing this job?
I would say that you will know that a system is getting better when the issue of choice is a much easier issue for us to discuss. In other words, when parents can go freely and choose to send their child to a charter school or a public school and feel that they are making an equitable choice. When school systems are not forced to take, I think, precious space and decide between putting a regular public school there or making room for a charter school. I think these will become the indicators of success. The idea is not just for charter schools to be successful. I always thought the idea was for charter schools to bleed out to the greater system and help improve the entire system, bring it all up. So by virtue of the fact that we keep hearing that there is a segment of schools that are doing so much better, and it's not bleeding over to the rest of the school population, leads me to believe that charter schools really aren't fomenting all the change on the ground that we really need to have. And I would say further, when I speak to principals and teachers, and I say to them in a regular public school, tell me what you need to really help you. They often point to schools like Eva's, which are just models of excellence, and they say, I need the freedom to run my school the way these charter schools do, to really, really make a difference. And so I think when we look at change, and when we look at teachers' contracts, and when we look at regulatory change and statutory change from the state and the city, what we need to do is say, how can we let the best practices of charter schools bleed out across this city and really let it be an open laboratory to build capacity. And I frankly don't see that yet. I believe that these systems are becoming very segregated. You have the charter school people, you have the public school people. They are armed camps often as they approach issues of regulation. They are armed camps as they approach issues of assessment, curriculum, teacher preparation. They're not learning from each other or becoming part of a learning community. And that, I think, is a really big problem.
Can I just amend that and direct this to Joe? Do you think that the accountability measures, the report cards, the error system, all kinds of things that the Chancellor and the Mayor have done have changed that in any
Well, I think that the parental choice part of this is an interesting part of this discussion. I think that the report cards are exactly wrong for parental choice because there's so much that's invested in the growth of a school. You could have a really crappy school that gets a good grade because they're less crappy than they were the year before. But a parent, I get to Mike's point, parents just want to know if the school's any good or not. And I think that they're not particularly well served by the report card system that's there. But I think in terms of what a good system looks like at the end of the day, when I was a reporter, I was interviewing, at 110 Livingston Street, when parents at the first day of school would be waiting to enroll their kids in different high schools than they'd been assigned to. And there was a mother there that said she wanted her kid out of whatever high school it was, and she wanted him to go to a school where at least 51% of the kids were graduating. Because for her, she wanted her child to be in a school where graduation wasn't seen as abnormal. And I think there's something at, high school is the easiest one for us because we can look at the graduation rates. And I think graduating and being able to do something, getting away from the local diploma aspect of sort of just showing up and getting credit for it. But I think if the city had a sense that by the time kids are getting to high school, they're going to be surrounded by classmates in schools where success and graduating and going on to better things is the norm, and it's not considered abnormal, I think we'd be on to something.
The idea of sharing in a very secure environment the practices that the schools consider to be of excellence is something that we need to strive for. I agree with Merryl on that completely. There is now an isolation of the schools themselves throughout the city. There is a pitting of one type of school against another, which I will never engage in because there are children in every building. So there has to be a way to start to move the system forward with an open, honest discussion, but at the same time a secure discussion and say, what are we doing? What does this school do that is making a difference with this type of student? And how can we then take that practice and bring it to another school that has that same type of student? And start to move it that way. Instead of, you're isolated, here's your school, and we're gonna take all of this progress report and all of these different measures, and good luck, you're on your own. That's not going to get us to the place where we can share these practices, and it's not getting us to the place where we can sit and have a conversation and talk about what are the practices that are happening. What does happen in some of the charter schools, and how do we bleed that over? That's a huge thing that we should be doing. That was the original intent. What can we do outside of the bureaucracy and then move it in? What we've done is we're doing this outside of the bureaucracy and we're not telling you. And we got to stop that. We got to say, let's start sharing these practices and let's do it in a secure environment. I'm willing to work with anyone that will help us share practices that will make a difference in children's lives.
I mean, this whole theme of sharing, I don't want to seem like a non-sharer on this panel, but this whole idea of sharing, I just think it doesn't grasp the reality. I'm co-located in 4 buildings, and it's not that we kind of hog our best practices and don't kind of give them to the other school. It's that you can't share because there are structural reasons for not doing it. I mean, the zone schools that we're co-located with, they can't, even if they had, brilliant educational leaders and phenomenal teachers. They didn't get to hire, the principal didn't get to hire her AP, the principal doesn't get to hire all of their teachers. They're limited by how many. I did 6-7 observations today. We don't have any rules about when leaders can come in and observe teaching. We have a very porous kind of environment where leaders go in to observe, teachers watch other teachers. The things that make our school good, and we have a lot to learn, so we're in the very early stages of this, but it's not like I could tie it up in a neat bow and give it to the schools that I'm co-located with. They have structural barriers, and some of them have to do with the length of the school day and how many days of school we have, but that's not going to solve the problem. If you lengthen the school day and